Welcome back to the press box. I was just thinking before we get this thing started, should we have like Angel Hernandez come in here and tie this up for like 20 minutes and try to figure out if we can actually do the show?
It'd be a good episode for him to come on because we're just going to talk straight MLB for today too.
It wouldn't be.
Maybe he'd have some other opinions on things.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry. Welcome back to the press box. Mark Haskell, Zack Miller here. Yeah, as Zack just said, it's going to be a very heavy baseball-centric show today. We've got a lot to talk about. Obviously, we're going to start with the Red Sox and this, I guess we'll call it a kerfuffle.
Yeah,
I think that's fair. Kerfuffle. That's a fun word.
That's an underutilized word.
It is a fun word. We should use it more in our stories.
Yeah, Ken went like that.
So obviously, the Rays come away with a 3-2 win last night at the Trop. Boston wins that series 2-1. So they've got, before we get into what happened, they've got a 7-game homestand coming up tonight. This is a Thursday, so they've got 4 with the Yankees and then 3 with Tampa, and then right after that, they've got a 4-game set at Yankee Stadium. So this is do or die time for the Red Sox.
This is the season.
But
this is the rest of the season.
As far as last night goes, we've got a lot to talk about. So the game, as you all know, was halted for 20 minutes in the 8th inning while they debated a positional change, which I guess, based on what I've read, I didn't see the game live as it happened. It was a midday game, and we were in here working, and we don't have the TV in here, unfortunately. But based on everything I've seen and read, it seems like the Red Sox are going to win this appeal. But anyway, this is what happened. So we're in the 8th inning, and let's see. After retiring one batter in the top of the 8th inning, credit to Yahoo Sports for this, by the way. Reliever Adam Kolarek for Tampa was moved from the mound to first base. First baseman Ji-Man Choi left the game, and reliever Chaz Rowe was brought in to face Mookie Betts. So Betts flies out, and that's where things get messy. Rowe left the game, and Kolarek was moved back from first to pitch, while Nate Lowe came off the bench to play first base. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, but any baseball game I've ever seen in my life, if you're pitching and you come off the mound, you can't pitch again. Am I wrong about that?
No, not that I've ever seen in my lifetime. I've never seen a pitcher go from the mound to first, second, third, wherever, and then come back to the mound.
I suppose
like the next batter later.
I suppose you could be in a situation where you want to move your pitcher to a positional place, but after that, they can only move around to positions. They can't go back and start throwing.
I don't think so. I've never seen that before. This is the first time I've ever heard of this happening.
I've never seen it before either. I think the Red Sox are actually going to win this appeal. But according to MLB rules, when a pitcher leaves the mound to officially play a fielding position, MLB rules say that the team gives up the designated hitter and that the DH's position in the lineup is locked. It can't be moved or switched. So to me, it seems like this is going to be an appeal that the Red Sox are going to win. So let's just pretend it happens. That means we're going to take a win off Tampa. We're going to take a loss off the Red Sox, and probably in an upcoming series at Tampa, whenever that next series is, they'll continue this game from the 8th inning with the Rays up 3-2, and then they'll just hop into another game. So it'll be like, as far as records go, it'll be like they're playing a doubleheader on that game. But I'm looking at this and I'm baffled. And it's actually it's a bad look for the sport, honestly, because baseball is a sport that's getting older and older by the minute. You're trying to keep younger fans involved in it. If you're turning on a Red Sox game and it's just a bunch of people just standing around for 20 minutes not playing baseball, it's pretty boring.
Yeah, I don't really have a problem with the whole challenge thing, but the problem that from what I was reading about it on Twitter and on various news organizations with their articles was that they didn't explain it to anybody.
Right.
They didn't take the time to explain to the fans or the people at home that were watching, why the hell are we sitting around for 15 or 20 minutes? What are they talking about? What's going on? Nobody knew anything. They just discussed it amongst themselves, made a decision, the game went on, but now we have the challenge, and now we get, the obvious explanation the day after. But people want to know in today's day and world what's happening right now.
Right.
I would have wanted to know watching the game what's going on.
Twitter was speculating, the announcers at the game were speculating, but in all fairness, if Angel Hernandez had to explain that to the people at Tropicana Field, he'd still be explaining it right now.
Well, it's actually a good question. Should things like that be explained almost like in an NFL game where the referee comes on and says, pass interference or when there's a penalty or something?
Like the NFL is big on that after reviewing the play, blah, 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 and then they explain it to, they give you way too much information sometimes. Hockey has kind of moved into that a little bit. They'll say no goal or whatever it is after they go and review. Basketball, basketball and baseball, it's just, hand gestures from the side.
But basketball,
it's a good hoop
basketball
or
goes
safe
to
or out.
the announcers and will tell ESPN or TNT or whoever what happened, and then they will relay that to the viewer. So they have some sort of system there, whereas MLB, it's just you're fending for yourself, trying to figure out what happened. It's not that hard to strap a mic on somebody nowadays.
No, I don't.
It's really not.
I don't disagree. It was a kerfuffle for sure, and I really do think that the Red Sox are going to win this challenge. I don't know how long the appeal will take to go through or the appropriate steps that need to be done, but this actually happened a few years ago. I was looking back trying to figure out when the last time a game was protested and won was, and it was actually in 2014 between the Giants and the Cubs. I guess originally it was a rain-shortened 2-0 loss for the Giants. This game was played at Wrigley, and it was ruled that due to a ground crew member's inability to properly apply the tarp during a 15-minute rainstorm that left the field unplayable even after 4+ hours of work. Basically, the Giants won the appeal on those grounds, and they replayed the game the following day from the 5th inning. As far as who won that game, couldn't tell you. Couldn't find that information.
5 years ago.
Yeah, and it's 5 years ago, so who cares? But yeah, so I think the Red Sox are going to win this. And if you look at the standings, they'd better win it.
They need to.
They need to win it. They need every single win they can get right now. As of right now, they're 11 games out of first. They're 2 games out of the second wild card spot. Currently, Cleveland and Oakland have those spots. And now the suddenly surging Angels, after a 4-game sweep of the Dodgers, they're just 2 back of Boston in the wild card race. I mean, so you look at all this, and the Angels are kind of surging since Tyler Skaggs died, and it's horrible to say, but I mean they're kind of
something else to play for.
Yeah, they really, really do. That's kind of reinvigorated that franchise. I mean, a 4-game sweep of the Dodgers is nothing to shake a stick at.
Dodgers are the best team in the NL right now.
Yep.
Yankees are the best team in the AL. And the Giants from the NL have also been doing hot. Not that matters for the Red Sox at all, but they're almost on that same plane as the Angels that are surging. Giants have won like 17 out of 20 games or some crazy number like that. But yeah, the Red Sox need to do something because they've got a big series starting tonight with the Yankees and then back with Tampa and then to the Yankees again. So it's like you win half of these games. You need to win more than half of these games to have a chance.
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier, right before we started. I said, and I will say again, that this is the Red Sox season. If the Red Sox blow this, they're done. There's no way they can come back. Whereas if the Red Sox somehow miraculously sweep the first 4-game series and then go down to New York and split or get 3, we've got a whole different ball game we're talking about here. And especially if the Sox win the challenge with Tampa Bay that we just explained. Now they're back to 10 games back of the Yankees instead of 11, and now you're in sole possession of second place as opposed to being tied with Tampa Bay 11 games back from New York.
Well, the big question that we have now, I mean, we're about a week away from the MLB trade deadline. So what? Are the Red Sox buyers or are they sellers? I mean, like that's like you look at their stuff, and right now they're 14-11 in 1-run games. I mean, that to me just screams as a bullpen problem. Obviously, they've got 18 blown saves. That's 4th worst in the league. So you look at all their problem is pitching. The offense is actually clicking. I mean, like we'll talk about the numbers here in a minute, but Devers and Bogarts, so they're kind of turning into perennial, maybe MVP candidates in the American League as far as offensively. They're both playing lights out, terrific. Betts is coming around.
Benintendi's starting to get a swing back.
Benintendi, hopefully, I guess he's going back to his college swing or something, and he does seem to be catching a few more bats, and that's great. But you look at some of the relievers that are available. Some of them that are available, they're just going to cost way too much. I mean, the big one that everyone's talking about right now is Kirby Yates, which let me tell you something. My fantasy baseball team loves Kirby Yates.
I bet
loves me some Kirby Yates for sure. He's got 31 saves on the season, leads Major League Baseball, a 1.05 earned run average, and a 0.81 WHIP. That is unbelievable.
And what's a WHIP for people that don't know?
That's walks, hits, and innings pitched all combined together. But he's going to cost a ton in a trade. You're going to have to give up the farm system, probably some MLB talent also, just to get him. And you've still got to have reliable arms to get you from the starters who may or may not have even made the game savable at that point to the closer.
Yeah.
So like you look at a guy like him or Will Smith from the Giants, Brad Hand with the Indians, Felipe Vasquez from the Pirates. They're kind of the same story in terms of what these guys would cost to get.
Is it worth it?
Exactly. So I mean, to me, these aren't sexy options, but I mean, like the lower end options that won't cost you as much, like Ken Giles or Daniel Hudson from Toronto, Michael Givens from Baltimore, Shane Green from Detroit, Alex Colomé of the White Sox, and Sam Dyson of the Giants. Those are all relievers that the Red Sox are currently targeting, and would be, you wouldn't have to give up the farm or give up a lot to get them, and they would definitely, if you can get 2 of those guys, they would definitely be upgrades over this is Boston's bullpen right now. Matt Barnes,
Sucks.
Brandon Wookman, Evaldi, Heath Hembree, Darwinson Hernandez, Marcus Walton, Colton Brewer, and Josh Taylor. And Brazier is gone.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think any of those guys would be an upgrade.
The only one that's been remotely good is Workman, but he didn't have a great closing segment of the game the other night against Tampa Bay when he gave up like 3 runs in the top of the 9th, and Tampa Bay almost won it. They had the bases loaded, but
and
the
Evaldi
Sox
looked terrible.
eventually won.
He got 2 outs, but then he gave up like 5 runs on 3 hits or something like that.
It wasn't pretty.
I mean, granted, he's probably rusty. That's fine. I'm willing to concede that. But they had a chance in the previous series. I mean, they were winning like a 10-run game against Baltimore. Why not bring him in right there in like a low leverage situation for an inning? Just work him in, see what you got, instead of waiting until you go to the only other place he's ever played a home baseball game in the majors and having him debut there. Well, not debut. I mean, obviously he played earlier in the season as a starter, but I just don't understand that. To me, that doesn't make any sense. So I guess that's the big question right now. Are the Red Sox buyers or are they sellers? Zach, what do you think?
When does the trade deadline end?
I believe it's July 31st.
So next Wednesday.
Right.
So this is a Thursday. It ends next Wednesday. I honestly think it's going to hinge on the series with the Yankees.
Yeah.
And if I was Dave Dombrowski, if the Sox get swept or if they lose 3 out of 4, there's no need to go out and sell the farm to get one of these guys because you're not really going to be – you're in the hunt for a wild card. And even if you get that wild card spot, you've got to go somewhere in the opening round of the playoffs, and there's no guarantee you're going to win.
Especially when you're lining
up. I just don't
up.
think that's worth it.
Especially when you're lining up with a team like probably Cleveland.
Yeah, you're not.
I don't like no matter. I think Cleveland's going to hang on to that wild card spot because Minnesota's going to Minnesota should win the Central. Cleveland's going to be right there. So whoever gets that second wild card spot is going to Cleveland. They're going to have to face Kluber if he's back after his arm gets reattached. Yeah. Or Carrasco's got leukemia, so he's probably out for the season. Who knows on him? So and Trevor Bauer would probably be the guy that you would face in a 1-game playoff. Of course, Trevor Bauer's name is being floated around as a guy that might get traded as well. So it's still like there's a lot to be thrown up in the air as far as the wild card. But yes, I think at the end of this 4-game series against the Yankees, you're gonna know.
Yeah, exactly. If they sweep the Yankees, well, Dombrowski's in a tougher spot. If they get swept, then.
Well, the problem
is in a pretty easy spot.
The problem for the Red Sox, as we've talked a lot about, has been pitching. The offense has been great. Bogarts right now. This is kind of cool, by the way. Like Bogarts, I mean, he's kind of turning into a perennial MVP candidate with the stuff that he's been doing. He just signed a 6-year, $120 million extension just before this season. How often do you see a guy sign a big extension like that and then go out and play lights out? Usually they kind of...
Like Sale has been.
Right,
he signed the extension
exactly.
and then sucked for most of the year.
Usually they take their foot off the gas pedal a little bit, so to speak, and kind of count their dollars
Breeze
a
their
little
way
bit.
through.
But Bogarts has been sensational. He's batting .309 this season, .352 in the last 30 games, .404 in the last 2 weeks. And Devers, he's in a similar spot. He was ice cold the first month of the season, but now he's batting .322. In the last month, he's batted .364. In the last 14 games, he's batted .309.
He's been crushing the ball.
He has been crushing.
He's not like just getting
it
singles,
really, really
but
well.
he is crushing it. Every hit he has gotten has been hit hard.
Well, I mean,
I'm talking really hard.
The 2 RBIs against Tampa yesterday were off the bat at Devers. I mean, he basically just looked out and was like, oh, they're cheating over the shortstop. It's wide open.
Bang.
And he just slapped it right through there, and 2 runs came in. It was just situational hitting, and it's been a joy to watch him hit the ball.
It's nice that all the production that they're getting from their offense has been the young guys, because they have that nice nucleus of guys, Betts and Devers and Bogarts and Benintendi and all those guys, to kind of carry them into the future along with their farm system where they can continue to develop the guys down below. But, at the same time, do you make, like we were talking before, do you make those moves to give up the farm to get someone if you really want to make a playoff run?
I don't. I feel like it would be a really if you trade for a Kirby Yates and you give up everybody. I mean, if you're trading for a Kirby Yates, you're basically saying that you think you can win the World Series.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Red Sox are saying that.
I don't think they make the playoffs.
I don't know if they could beat the Yankees in a 7-game series or the Astros. So what are you going to do? Like, you're going to trade for Kirby Yates, give up like your whole farm system, and then be like, well, we made it to the ALCS and got swept. Well, who cares?
Yeah, it didn't.
At that point, like, I'd much rather them trade for one of these lower tier guys, 2 of them maybe if you can, and see if you can make a go of it and make it work. And hopefully Evaldi comes along, and hopefully the pitching turns around. But Betts, he's .281 on the season, and he's been hot the last month or so too. He's been .330 the last 30 days and .333 the last 14 days. He's been turning it around offensively. But we were talking before we turned this on about Mookie Betts versus Mike Trout. Obviously before the season, there were, a lot of people were talking about, Betts, wanting to test free agency.
Yeah.
And obviously he turned down an 8-year, $200 million extension after the 17th season. Do you think that Betts is worth the kind of, Trout got a 12-year, $430 million deal. Let me say that again. 12-year, 430, that's almost $500 million. It's the richest contract in the history of North American sports. And Mike Trout, who MLB cannot market to save their damn lives, has gotten. So do you think that Mookie Betts is anywhere in Trout's vicinity?
No, I don't. I really don't.
Hot take.
No, it's not when I look at the stats, and obviously I have stats in front of me.
Let's hear them. Let's see what you got.
You guys that are watching don't have stats in front of you, but you may. You can look them up. It's got them off ESPN.
Yeah, you can do it. We just use the internet.
So obviously Trout is a little bit older than Betts is. He's 27. Betts is 26. But Trout has played in MLB for 8 years. Betts has played for 5 years. So here are Trout's career statistics. He's got an average of a 306, 273 home runs, 729 RBIs. He's got a 419 on-base percentage, a 580 slugging percentage. He has 1,286 hits, 245 doubles with 45 triples. Okay, so those are Trout's career stats. These are Betts' career stats. 300 average, 125 home runs, 437 RBIs, 122 stolen bases, so he does have the legs that Trout really doesn't have. 337 or 373, I think that's an on base percentage. I'm not sure what that is. I just typed that in wrong. That's a five, and he has a 512 slugging percentage with 214 doubles and 25 triples. So I mean, the offensive stats are obviously skewed towards Trout. He hasn't had a couple more years, but at the same time, Trout has less than 30 home runs in 2 seasons of his 8 in 2012, which he had 27. That was his first full-time MLB season. And in 2016 when he had 29. So, I mean, he's got the power. And that's also a minimum of 96 plate appearances. The 96 plate appearances were from last year, I believe. And he still hit over 30 home runs. And this year he has over 30 home runs. And we're only halfway through the season.
Talk about a guy that's, playing out of his mind and worth the money so far. I mean, like, granted, you're 1 year, not even 1 year into that gigantic contract.
Exactly.
But he leads many offensive categories in the AL.
I'll get into that right now. So he's first in the AL in home runs with 33, RBIs with 81, walks with 80. His slugging percentage is first with 662, and his OPS is 1.105.
That's pretty good.
That's almost like David Ortiz numbers before Ortiz retired. Remember that season he had?
Yep.
When he was just going off the rails?
And he was really
But
in the MVP
Trout seems to go
right
off the rails every single year as on the offensive side. And he's he doesn't have like the defensive numbers that Betts has. Betts has 3 Gold Gloves. Trout doesn't have any. But let's just see. Trout's a 2-time MVP. Mookie's won last year. He won Rookie of the Year in 2012. He's won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Silver Sluggers in 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 18. He was also the All-Star Game MVP in 2014 and 2015. He also won the Hank Aaron Award 2 years ago, I think.
You know what does suck about Trout though? Last 7 games, he's batting 174.
I know those last
what
7 games.
What a loser!
Yeah, man, that contract's not worth it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
You think you know?
But no, I don't think that Mookie is worth Mike Trout amount of money. I think Mookie's worth his money. If Mookie doesn't have a great season this year, he may be kicking himself for that $200 million deal he didn't sign.
Well, and that's not even talking about the fact that they were trying to get a deal done with him before the season. Numbers really didn't come out before the season about what they were trying to do because Betts basically just kind of said, I don't want to talk about that right now. Like, I'm going to test free agency when the time comes, but for now I just want to focus on baseball. And everybody took that as he's immediately leaving. But he's quoted recently as saying, just because you go to free agency doesn't mean you want to be somewhere else. It's just part of the business. And I think that's a big part of it. I mean, like, you want to go out and see what your market value is. Yeah. But the other side of the coin is, if he does start to fall off a cliff a little bit, and the Red Sox say they offered him $350 million and he didn't take it because he saw that Trout got $430 or something like that, he's gonna be kicking himself, man. He's gonna be a bowler.
Yeah. Well, he's got something to lean back on.
Well, yeah, he can bowl. Like some people can only play one sport. At least he can bowl.
Yeah.
How many 300s have you thrown?
I think it's smart, and if I was him, I would do the same thing. You got to test the waters, find your worth, and see what someone's willing to pay you. He's had the stats the past couple of years. He won the MVP last year. He helped the Red Sox win the World Series. He was a hell of a player. Last year was obviously his best season ever in Major League Baseball. And he's still young. He's only been in the MLB. This is his 6th year.
Wouldn't it be crazy if the Red Sox just went on like a torrid losing streak and they traded Mookie Betts?
Yeah.
Do you think that could happen?
It could happen.
That could potentially
and there'd be
happen.
A lot of pissed off Boston fans.
Oh my God, yeah, the internet would explode. No question.
Yeah, they trade Mookie Betts for that closer. Kirby,
Kirby Yates.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll give you
deal.
Mookie for Kirby Yates.
Sweet deal.
Yeah.
Let's do that immediately. So, all right, before we sign off, we wanted to chat a little bit about what's going on with the extended netting policy now with Major League Baseball. I guess last night between the White Sox and the Marlins game at Guaranteed Rate Field, which I'm guessing that's Chicago.
Yeah.
I think it's Chicago.
It is Chicago's
It used to
field.
be Progressive Field or US
It's all about
Cellular
the
Field. Or I don't
sponsors.
know, whatever. Guaranteed Rate Field. Okay, so foul pole to foul pole netting. Just think about that for a second. Imagine you're at Fenway Park and you're going from foul pole to foul pole, and it's full netting. I don't know about I absolutely hate this.
The netting?
Yeah, the netting, I absolutely hate it. Let me just, before I talk, just your turn to talk. What do you think about this? Wait. So Commissioner Rob Manfred recently said extending protective netting down foul lines is a ballpark-to-ballpark decision because of differing configurations, which is legitimate, but MLB mandated before the 2018 season that nettings extend to the far end of each dugout. So it's already began, but now they're talking about from foul pole to foul pole. What would you think about that if that happened?
Foul pole to foul pole, I don't think so. Not for foul pole to foul pole. For what it is now, I think it's fine. For the to the end of the dugout is good, but also at the same time, like, you're responsible for paying attention during a baseball game. This isn't a football game where they're tossing around a football, and
Right.
football rarely ever goes into the stands. This is baseball where they have the signs up, be aware of things leaving the playing field, because it happens almost at least once or twice per batter with foul balls and sometimes bats. So you're responsible for not looking at your phone or for paying attention. Obviously, you're not going to be paying attention the whole time, but you still need to pay attention. Obviously, if you're in the bleacher seats out in the outfield, you're probably fine. But if you're paying those big bucks,
or if you're directly behind home plate, that netting,
you're fine
that netting
there.
is fine.
Yeah. That's fine. That's always
We're all
been
in
there.
agreement on that.
Normally, the netting has been there, for I think all ballparks from behind home plate to the front of the dugouts. That's where it originated, but then it stopped there. But I think to where the dugouts end is fine too, because obviously there's reaction times, and some people's reaction times are slower than others. You're going to have older people, you're going to have kids, and there's obviously been instances where kids have been hit in the head. So I think to the end of the dugouts is fine. Yes, it does hinder your baseball experience of getting a ball or whatever, but you can still get a ball. I'd rather you can get it tossed over the fence from a
So it
player.
sounds like you're in favor of the netting.
I am to that point, and maybe a little bit farther down. Just there's basically, like I said, reaction times.
Right.
So wherever that reaction time is, if you can hear the ball being hit, turn, and still see the ball coming at you, and try to react to it, I think there doesn't need to be netting there. So foul pole to foul pole, I think when you're down by the foul pole, then there doesn't need to be netting there.
I think
that's a little over dramatic.
Right.
But where it is right now, I think is fine, because if you're going to get a line drive 100 miles an hour at your head, your reaction time is going to be like, oh crap, this thing's coming at me.
Right.
And you have to have time to put your hands up.
I get reaction times, but I feel like the majority of people, if this is home plate and we're going this way, if you're watching the game, your reaction time is good enough that you can see that
Yes.
ball coming. And that to me is the big problem. It's like we're trying to make it easier for people to go to baseball games and not pay attention. I'm not saying that I like the element of danger in the MLB ballparks. I'm just saying, like, if I'm going to a baseball game, I'm paying money for the ticket, I'm paying money to park, I'm paying the money for my Fenway Frank and my $12 beer. Like, I'm paying for an experience, okay? And the experience isn't like looking through a net that's like doing the George Carlin chain link fence mystery at me thing. Like, and I don't dig it. I don't like it. It's just, and then there's the kids part of it. Like, so if it's going to go from foul pole to foul pole, so I guess kids aren't going to get their baseballs autographed anymore. Like, we're just like kids can't interact with the players before games. Like, to me, like, that's a big part of it. And it's like by putting up the extended netting, it's like you're inviting people to pay less attention to the game. Like, well, I don't have to worry about getting hit with that ball. Let me just see what's going on Facebook. That kind of stuff drives me crazy. Like, you want to check your phone. There are about 18 chances between innings of a 9-inning game where you can check your phone.
Or go down below to where get concessions and check your phone there.
It drives me crazy. And I'm going to let everybody else in on secret too. You ready? You're ready? Like, Red Sox, Brewers, Cubs, whoever it is, they don't care about you. They really, really don't. They care about not getting sued, and they care about the PR for their organization. That's it. If you get hit with a ball, it's not going to be any skin off their ass. I can promise you that. They do not care.
The signs
they're
are
doing
up.
This,
Says
yes,
pay attention.
They're doing
They're
this
covered.
strictly for PR. It's BS, and it drives me insane. I'm sorry. I obviously, we don't completely agree. Some people out there are nodding their head and going, yes, and the other people are like, he's terrible.
Yeah.
So,
well,
but that's why we
you
talk
brought
about
up the whole net thing. The Nationals actually came up with, I don't know if they came up with it, but they're using a knotless netting, which allows for a higher degree of transparency between the net and the field. You know, I understand the whole, you know, the net is there and it's hard to see through, but eventually your brain will actually ignore it because you're not focused on it. Kind of like your nose. Your nose is always there, but your brain just chooses to ignore it. If you actually look at it, it's there, but you just can't see it. It's the same type of situation. But I don't think it needs to go that far. I really feel for, like you said, the kids that can't get their balls autographed or their bats autographed or gloves or hats or whatever, to have the interaction with the players, you know, because there's a netting there.
To me,
and you can't even put your ball or anything through the netting because it's so small.
No, you can't. Like,
you could
like
toss
a
it
mini ball or
over.
something. Yeah. You know what's going to be great? The first time like a left fielder or a right fielder goes on the disabled list because they're too busy chasing down foul balls that are still in play because they can't just go into the seats, and then they gotta like try to throw them up over the net, and like, you know, and they're, you know, that's gonna happen. That's gonna happen for sure.
Yeah.
And you know, and players are gonna start complaining about it too.
And then you're going to get to the whole thing, well, was that foul? Did it hit that netting that's up there? 'Cause now we got reviews, so we have to see if the netting moves, you know, a little bit as the foul ball
To
goes.
me, it's just the feeling of, where does it end? You know, I just feel like, you know, if we want to be really super duper safe, you know what we should do? You know, with the green monster seats, we should have all the guys wearing seatbelts up there.
Yeah, and have netting.
Because what if they fall off the edge of the green monster?
Yeah,
leaning over for a home run or something like that. Wouldn't that be terrible? We should have seatbelts. Fenway Park, if you're listening, seatbelts. Okay? That's what I'm saying. Hey, I'm all about the kids. Just want everyone to be safe.
I don't know. Let's put the whole harnesses down like on roller coasters. You know what I mean?
Oh my God!
It's one of those things that's, you know, it's obviously it's happening. We don't have control over it, but it is what it is. And
anyway, this is what happens when Zach and I don't have a lot of local sports to talk about. We just kind of start foaming at the mouth about some things that are bothering us about Major League Baseball. So. Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. This is a getaway Thursday for me. I'm actually going down in the basement, and I won't be back until next week. You might see Zach and Ken next week. You might not. And
you're not coming back next week. I'm back the week after.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, not next week. I'm going to be gone next week. Oh. So the week after.
Yeah, you didn't say that. You said I'll be back next week.
Sorry, I'm just really excited to get out of here.
Yeah, I bet you are.
Like, gotta get that vacation while we can before the sports start back up again. Yeah. So, until 2 weeks from now, maybe you'll see Zach and Ken next week. If not, I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Until then, I'm Mark. This is Zach. And this has been the Press Box.